Okay, we're at the top of the hour. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. Of course, again, my name is Tim McMullen. I have with me two Jason McManuses today because one's just not quite enough for us. So we need to duplicate him, clone him, and then Brad and Colin and I will be watching the background. So really, Jason's going to be running this one. We're going to be talking about land lease processing, specifically using clause detection inside of Grooper, which is a newish feature that we've been working on and we've pretty much perfected. So I'm going to get out of the way. The logistics here are we have your microphones muted, but you can ask us questions through the Q&A. So please feel free to do that, and we will try to stop and ask you questions through the way as well. Jason, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the introduction. And again, thank you to everybody attending. See, we do this every 2 weeks, and we've kind of got a little bit of a cult following of people that have been attending, but we've got quite a few new names on the list today. So thank you all very much for taking time out to watch our presentation. So before I dive into it today, a couple of things I wanted to mention. If you were on the email list, obviously I think all of you probably were, you wouldn't be here. You probably noticed the name Neural Energy. So I just kind of wanted to mention what that is so that everybody can understands how everything works together. So BIS owns Grooper. We've been developing it for many, many years. Grooper is a platform, an AI enabling platform that allows you to do a lot of different use cases and things. One of the things that we've decided we needed to do with Grooper is make it more purpose-built for some very specific use cases and some very specific industries. So we have developed a subsidiary of BIS that we're calling Neural Energy. We have brought in some industry experts. So this isn't just a bunch of BIS people deciding, hey, we're going to go figure out how to conquer the oil and gas or energy sector. We brought in some veterans with 25 plus years experience in the space specific to this use case in this particular matter. And we've also hired some consulting firms that have helped us build this product out. So this has been a collaborative effort that has not just been the Grooper team and the technologists that have built and built out Grooper, but people that have actually spent their lives and dedicated their lives to land departments and large energy companies dealing with these problems. And we have what we have today has been built based off of feedback and collaborative efforts with those particular people. Now we're not going to stop developing Grooper as a platform. Our goal is to build out lots of products and lots of different horizontal and vertical use cases that everyone, both partners and clients, hopefully will be able to take advantage of. Today's presentation is going to be very specific to lease and land records for the energy sector. How to process them, how to use our clause detection to go through and determine what provisions do and don't exist, and mine those provisions for very specific data elements. We're going to cover all that in the presentation today. But that could be, really what we're talking about is contracts analysis. This could be expanded. So I know we have a few people on the call today that aren't necessarily specific to the energy sector. What we're going to show today could be applied to any types of contracts that you need to analyze. Information remediation type processes. You acquire a company, you need to go analyze a SharePoint library full of contracts and understand liabilities that may be associated with those, or understand the value of assets that maybe you acquired. This could be applied to any and all of those things. So we're about to get started. We're going to kind of walk through what we've built. I'm going to try to be done by about 11:25 Central Time. That will leave us 5 minutes towards the end to go through any questions that were posted during the presentation. As Tim mentioned, your mics are muted, but the chat is enabled. So as I go through this, please, we encourage feedback, questions. Let us know if you have any. We'll address those at the end. Also, we're rolling this product out now. We have one or two clients using it. We have a couple about to be some of our early adopters, but we're also looking for feedback and if there's anything we need to add to the product or any gaps we need to address inside it. We're kind of new to the market with this, so we want to continue to evolve it, enhance it. That's going to be part of the product management as we get this product out on the streets. If you see things, please let us know. And then, of course, if you would like to have a more in-depth discussion and maybe see how Grooper can handle some of your documents, we would love to do one-on-one sessions with anybody as a follow-up that would like to see that. So, all right, enough of me talking. Let's get into this. So hopefully everybody's seeing my screen. If you're not, just hit us up in the chat session and let us know if you have any technical difficulties. But what I figured we would start with is what probably most of you have today, which is just a bunch of dumb images. So, in this case, it's a bunch of TIFF images, just a series of them that we have available here. I can come in, open these up. These are what we have found to be typical type land records. They usually were recorded some time ago. They might already have been scanned. If they were scanned, we don't necessarily have control over the image quality in a lot of the cases. So, you're looking at one here. It actually says poor copy in the upper right-hand corner. That's kind of what we're used to. They're not the best quality images. So if you're familiar with Grooper, we have the best OCR capabilities on the market. Converting this to text. What I call curating the documents for AI. Whether it's machine print, hand print, dirty, ugly images, inverted text. I won't go through all of this in detail because we've had several webinars covering this, but anything that you could possibly throw at us, cursive handwriting, all of this Grooper is going to curate, make this text searchable, and we're going to use AI engines to go through and organize it, put the leases together, determine where leases begin and end if we're importing this as we are right here, just as a bunch of raw TIFF images, and then, go through and extract and curate and collect all the provisions and data elements, things like legal descriptions out of these. So this could be just an import of TIFF or PDF files or any other image format that you might have existing out there. Or, as most of you are aware, we can drive scanners. So you could have a scanning department, or you could even outsource that to us, where we just take and digitize a bunch of paper files. Which, if you have paper, that's ideal, because then we do have good, quality control over the scanner settings and DPI and all that kind of good stuff. So this is what we're starting with now inside of Grooper. We can, like I said, we could just scan these, or in my case, what I did today was just what we call a file system import. So I can come in here and just point Grooper to a file share and tell it, go out and import these files and create a new batch and process them. And that's exactly what we did. So we've got, 100 files we processed, 520 pages total, because this particular batch I imported in had multi-page PDFs. So we support that as well. We can do single-page TIFFs, we see single-page PDFs, multi-page files as well. And then Grooper can go through and auto-organize those files as they come in. After we import them, we can do some cleanup techniques to make them all nice and pretty. We go through an OCR process where we make them text searchable, and it's not just text searchable. I use the term curating because we're doing a lot of things to AI enable the text. And we're going to make sure to keep the coordinates and the positions of the text is very important. What comes before, above, below, and after when you're reading documents is important to a human. It's important to AI as well. Creating vector indexes, creating embeddings. These are all things that Grooper is going to be doing as part of this. Then we're going to go through an extract process. This is all 100% in today's demo using AI. We built this whole thing out, leveraging large language models to go through and read these documents and auto-determine what provisions do or don't exist, collect all the header and footer data off of these documents, and automate the process that normally would be a human. What I've seen from these lease analysts is they would have a spreadsheet with a list of the provisions that they want to look for. They would have a PDF document open, and they would go through and just highlight and copy and paste stuff over. So we want to recreate that experience, but automate it so that we're not having to go through and read the actual leases and look for all these data elements. So after being processed and handing this data off to AI and asking it, does a cessation clause exist? Does a hebdom clause exist? Does a pooling agreement exist? What does it come back with? So there's a couple of ways we can address, the data review. You can go through and just look at, items that maybe Grooper looked as questionable, or you can go through and review everything. And what we did is we set it up here where we can come through and actually review everything. So we have 100 leases that we processed. That was 520 total pages. This is the first lease, and this is the data that Grooper went and collected off of this lease. So we have what I refer to as, kind of header data, the subject, the filing date, the recording county. And you'll notice as I click on here, Grooper will show you where it physically found this information inside of this lease. So it gives you some visual cues. Then we've got, our original leasee, we've got our leaseor, just some very basic information that we're collecting. This isn't rocket science. We've been doing these kinds of things for years, but the really cool thing we're doing here is this is all using AI. So the setup time in setting this up was almost nothing. And if we get new leases from new areas, new periods of time that they were recorded, we don't have to go back and modify our model. This isn't like in the old days where we're constantly having to update templates, which is a bad word these days, and go back and look for variations in the data language and layouts and, the labels and things of that nature, where it's like, oh, well, we never processed leases from Wyoming before or the specific county. So now we got to go out and we got to data model this. And we got to set up all these rules and things. No, we just drop it in there, let it go, and it's finding this information for us pretty much out of the gate with very little tampering on our end. And then if we do have issues, we can deal with it either through tuning of the large language models or what we call prompt engineering, which again is very minimal effort, to come in and manage and maintain these things. So what used to be months and months and months of work to set these types of things up and be able to go process leases from anywhere and collect this information is now a matter of minutes. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. We've got sales reps that are coming in and building out complicated data extraction models that used to professional services engineers from our team would have taken months to create. So AI has really closed the gap in what we can do. So again, this is pretty basic stuff that we're collecting. What I call header data we're getting off of this. So let's get to the cool stuff. Let's go down here and start looking at some of these clauses. So can unit be amended after declaration? So I click on that field. It says yes. So we're doing a yes, no thing first. So we're just handing the lease to AI. We're telling it the clause that we want to look for, and it's coming back and giving us a yes, no. And then it also, when I click on the yes, no value there, it will highlight where it found it. So this is the actual clause here that it believes is a can unit be amended after declaration clause. Now I can hit tab and it'll jump down to the next field inside this section. So you'll notice we've got these things sectioned out. So we're looking for the clause first, does it exist or not? And then after we find the clause, we can mine it for very specific data elements. So we just told the AI engine, what criteria needs to be followed to amend the unit. It says mutual consent. In our prompts, we can put the options we want to have potentially responded. In this particular case, we did. There's a couple of different options there, and it reads the language and said, well, this is obviously mutual consent. Now, I'm a mouse person. I normally would kind of click through these, but most people that I've seen, the land analysts, prefer the keyboard. So I'm just going to tab down to our next field. Notice when I did, it moved, what it had highlighted on the document to a new area, because the cessation clause is different than the can unit be amended. And again, it says yes. It says there is one. Our next question to mine that cessation clause is what terms are outlined by the cessation operations clause. So I hit tab, go down to it. There's my unit value. So I want to go through and verify that the AI is correct, that it is the actual clause and that the data in mind from it is. So all I'm doing is tabbing through these values, and now I've got a cessation of production clause, and then I've got my terms there. So I'm just going to click through a few of these because I want to go through several yeses, but then I want to stop on a no and kind of explain some cool stuff that we did there. So consent required to drill. So we've got one there, 200 feet. So, and 200 feet is how many feet is the distance that, we need to get consent on. Continuous drilling. Is there a continuous drilling clause? Yes. What are the terms outlined by the continuous drilling clause? So again, 180 days in this particular case. So if we needed to collect the units like days or other values, we easily could. Continuous operations again. Continuous development. Yes. And again, it's another 180 consecutive days. And if I needed to get the consecutive days out of this, we potentially could. And this, and the requirements when we built this out for this particular project, we were told we just needed the value, not necessarily the units. Now, you'll notice our next one says delay rental, and it says there's not a delay rental clause. So I'm going to click tab down to it. You'll notice when I get to this particular clause, when I click on it, it says no, but it highlights a clause inside of the actual lease. So why is it doing that? Well, as we were building this out, we were having some kind of brainstorming sessions, and our CEO got involved and he said, this is amazing stuff, but how do we trust it? And specifically, how do we trust it when it says no? How do you prove a negative? How do you prove that something doesn't exist inside a document? How do you prove that there's no delay rental clause? Well, you read the whole contract, which kind of defeats the purpose of automation and using AI. So our CTO, who helped develop this product, said, well, one thing I could easily engineer into the product is showing you the closest false positive. So it's highlighting what comes back as the closest language that could be a delay rental, but is not a delay rental in this particular case. So instead of me having to read, in this case, it's a simple 2-page lease, but this could be a 20-page lease. So instead of having to read 20 pages to determine that there is not a delay rental, as a lease analyst, I just look at this clause and say, well, if AI believes that is the closest near miss, then I'm pretty confident that there's probably not a delay rental. I don't feel like I need to read the entire document. I'll just read maybe this one clause that's in here, this one paragraph, and feel comfortable and not have to read the entire thing, or maybe not even have to read the entire paragraph, but just, I can tell pretty quickly that's a royalties clause, and that's not a delay rental. So I'm highly confident, and I don't feel like I need to read the entire thing. Our goal here is automation, so that instead of doing 4 of these an hour, maybe you're doing 20 of these an hour, or whatever those variables are. We want to enable your analyst to be 3 to 4 to 5x, as productive and get cleaner, better data. That was one of the things that we did some Pepsi challenges when we were building this out, and hired some analysts, 1099 them, and had them process some files and compared their output to Grooper, and had a consultant, come in and grade it. And we actually were getting better data than, the 10-year plus, lease analysts were getting off the documents. So we'll just flip through a couple more of these. So we got another no, a depth restriction. It says, no, I didn't see a depth restriction clause in here. Here's your closest near miss. Tab through again, domestic wells. Don't see a clause related to that. I don't see a drilling commitment clause. And as we're collecting all of this, we're going to allow you to visualize this data as well. So I should have mentioned that kind of going into this. Collecting it's important. It's really cool. But once we get this off these 100 leases, we want to visualize where all these things are, because these leases we're processing here are all from one basin. They're from not even from one state. These are from all over the country, different counties, different states. And I want to be able to visualize where all these things are present. So we're going to show you that towards the end. Favored nations, we'll just kind of flip through several of these. I won't bore you and make you go through all of these. Well, let's go back up to force majeure, because we did have a force majeure clause, and it does say that notice is required. So very quickly, very easily, within a matter of seconds, Grooper can go through, process these files, curate the text off of them, collect all that header data, all the basic information, and then go through and analyze it for all these different provisions. Now, I think this particular demo, we have somewhere around 100 provisions we're analyzing for, but we can easily add additional provisions. We can add these on the fly. Our goal is to continue to build the product out, and I think we're looking at eyeing somewhere around 250 provisions total in the final product. And then I'm sure we're going to have one-offs for customers where they're going to say, this isn't normal for most energy companies to need this one, but can you add this one? And the answer is always going to be yes. We can come in and very quickly and easily, set it up so that Grooper will look for non-standard provisions that may only be specific to you and your use cases. But these are the ones that we're going to have just out of the box shipping with this product if you wanted to start using it. Okay, so this is lease 1. So if I hit this little complete button, it'll hop us over. We got 100 of these in here. So over to lease 2. And same thing, we're just same process, collecting the same data off of all of these as we go through it. So I'll just click on a couple of these. So here's our legal description. This one's a little bit longer than that first one. Again, it does a phenomenal job of what I refer to as named entity extraction. This legal description, all I told it was find a legal description. That's it. AI, paired with Grooper, it's amazing, what it can do coming through and finding this information. Same thing with things like these date fields, being able to determine the difference between an effective date and an agreement date. All this different information. Now, I'll tell you something cool we did too with this. Still, a little bit of the thunder from the data visualization, but I want to show it here when we're looking at a document so you can visually see it. There's no longitude or latitude coordinates on these documents. We have addresses, we have legal description, section, township, range, things of that nature. But to visualize this in a heat map, we need longitude and latitude information. So using AI, we can auto-generate the longitude and latitude coordinates for these properties. And we did exactly that when we created the data visualization, which is something we actually can create data associated with the documents that doesn't actually exist on the document or even in any external systems or databases that you might have access to on your network. If we had an address, but we don't have a county present, we can auto-generate the county using AI based off of the actual address. Very easy things to set up, takes a matter of seconds, and is highly, highly accurate. So we'll flip through a few of these, and then we're going to jump over to search. So let's just kind of go down here to, and I'm hoping some of you are experts, because I am not. As I mentioned, we hired experts to help build this product out. If you actually handed me one of these documents and told me to find a cessation clause, I probably couldn't do it. And the fact that Grooper can do it with so little training and so little tuning is absolutely mind-blowing to me. We're able to come through here and collect all this information off of these documents. But what I've been told by the people who are experts is that it is highly, highly accurate, and it's amazing how well of a job it does going through the documents, finding this information. So I'm going to stop there because I still want to do search. I still want to do assistance. So we only got a few minutes left here. We got a lot to cover. So now I've got all these 100 leases, and this could be hundreds of thousands, millions of these things that you could have processed. We have a search capability that's built into Grooper. So now I've got them processed. I'm going to show you what we can do with the data and visualization. But let's just say I'm a landman and I want to come back and do some searches, for this, all the leases that we own. So I know I'm specifically looking for stuff related to the township of Burlington and the county of Bradford. So out of all those leases I just processed, and this is a simple search you can do, and you can use this little AI query agent. So you can come in here and talk in natural language and say something like, find all leases for the township of Burlington and the county of Bradford. You type it in and hit OK. It generates this syntax for you. You get your search. So out of all those leases, here are 11 that it found. And on every one of these, it should say somewhere in it, township of Burlington and county of Bradford. So just a very quick, simple AI search capability, again, using natural language prompts to do very, very complicated searches. And you can search for anything we collected off the document, any text that's present within the document. So I've got several on here that I saved because I knew we'd be short on time today. So here's one where I look for volume 887, page 558. Maybe we didn't index it by volume and page, but for some reason I need to find it because that's all I've got to work with. So there we see it printed on the document. Old school OCR would have thrown up on that font. It just would not have done it. Our OCR, our AI enabled OCR, again, we don't care. We're able to convert just about anything on these to text. Here's another one where I just saw a number on a document that I wanted to go look up. So we're doing our queries. We're getting our hit list down here. So we actually have a very specific lease number that was printed on it. So I just typed that in. And here's a string of characters. I think this might have been handwritten. I can't remember for a reason why I did it. Yeah, so not the worst, but not the best handwriting. Traditional STR probably would not have done that, but I can come in and look for that numerical value. And out of all those pages, 520 pages, and again, this could be hundreds of thousands, millions of these, and notice how fast it is and getting me directly to the document that I'm looking for. Very quick, very eloquent. Here's one where I noticed one of them had Stefano A. Decimone. I'm probably going to butcher that name. Apologize for my Southern education there, but I didn't hit search, or did I? Okay, yeah. And it was a handwritten one, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to get that. I mean, that's pretty bad handwriting. So I did a quick search, and there it was. So again, search for names, values, handwritten information. Here's one where I did a search for just a book and page number that I saw on a document. So same thing. And I did this one because, again, I thought, man, that is ugly text. It's going to be hard for most technologies to make that text searchable. Grooper did a fantastic job. I didn't do a search, preparing for this demo where I couldn't find the information. So here's another one, Lone Tree and Energy. And this one is actually on 34 different documents. So obviously, whoever this is, they record a lot of stuff. So out of our 134 of them were for them. I can kind of click on these and go through all of these and see all that. So just ways that even after we've curated the data, we've done the data extraction, we're going to put this into whatever land systems you're utilizing. And that's one of the key things here is you own this. You own the images that are in Grooper. You own the data Grooper's collected, and you can put it anywhere you want. You're not confined to just using it inside of Grooper. Okay. Now, AI assistants, very, very quickly, because we're running out of time. So you can build a virtual landman. You can train them and give them access to data sets, pieces of information. So in this case, I gave them access to these 100 leases we put out there. And I told it, you are a 25-year veteran landman for a large energy company. So I can say, give me a summary of all the Colorado leases and any issues you might see with them. So it's going to look at those 100 leases. It's going to determine which ones are from Colorado. It's going to analyze those 100 leases, analyze all those provisions, just like a lease analyst would. And it's going to come back and give me a summary of those. And if it sees any issues, it's going to give me those. So it sees quite a few from, mostly I think these are going to be from Weld County. And then I can export that out if I want to. It's pretty simple, but you can do some really, really cool stuff with these assistants if you want to. So on top of search, you now can have an AI assistant, or you think of it as a chatbot. It's a very educated chatbot that's very specific to your use case and your documents that you want to have conversations with. Now I can come back and say, well, same thing for Ohio leases. So it remembers your conversations, just like, the off-the-shelf products like a Chat GPT would. But this is very specific to your use case, in this case being a landman or a lease analyst in your documents. So very, very powerful. And this can be enabled via Teams, via email. You can do it obviously through our user experience, and then we also have APIs where you can enable this through external applications. So if you wanted to put this like embed this inside of a website or something like that for your employees to be able to leverage and use, they'd be able to do all of these things. So you're seeing it's getting the summaries of the leases, how many acres they are, some of the key clauses that do or don't exist in them, some issues that it might see. It could be pretty valuable stuff, as you're going to go through. So you get 1,000 of these dumped on you. You need to decide if I want to spend $1 billion buying these or not. Drop them in Grooper. Grooper can, again, go collect all this information, allow you to export it to whatever land information systems you want to put it in, but you can have these conversations with it too very quickly if you want. All right. Now, I've gone over what I said I was going to go, but we got one more thing real quick. So I mentioned we can take this data and we can put it anywhere. So we put it in Power BI. And I mentioned that we used the longitude and latitude information. We auto-generated that. So I can come in here, go to a dashboard, and then there's all my clauses that we found off of these leases. And there's how many existed for each. And then here's a heat map of the US. So my assignment to a consent clause is if I want to see a density map of where those exist and be able to drill down into it, I can just click on it. Same thing for a cessation clause. So come in here, click on it, and I'll get a heat map of where those exist, which is very similar to our assignment consents. But so let's go do it. Domestic wells. And you kind of get the point. If I wanted to see leases by county, the number of leases. So there it shows me out of those 100, there's a visualization, and it shows me the colors are showing me by density. The lighter the color, the fewer the leases, the more the darker. So if I wanted to come in here, Weld County is obviously one where we have a lot. I can drill down into that one if I want to. I also can do things like net acres by lease. So I could drill down into that, see more information. I could do it by state. So if I just wanted to see a very specific state, that's not Colorado. I'm not sure what's going on there. North Dakota, New Mexico, all these different types of things. I can go back to my dashboard. You get all different types of ways you can visualize this information. And everyone we've shown this to, this was the piece that they were like, wow, okay, that's really where this becomes valuable to my team, is being able to take that data and visualize it in different ways. And again, this is just Power BI. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff inside of Power BI, but you can use any visualization tool you want. You own the information. We're not hosting this. We're not holding your data hostage. We're not holding your images hostage. You want to export this out and putting it into other systems, you can do whatever you want to with it. It's your information. So, and like I said, we're going to continue to evolve the product. We're going to continue to add provisions and capabilities to it. There's going to be lots of new features we're going to be adding to it. But we're a few minutes over, so hopefully, if y'all don't mind, you can stay over for a minute or two, and we'll pause now and we'll go through questions that were posted.
So, Jason, the only question we had was, basically, are we going to move into other verticals with this, right? Specifically consumer finance. And I had answered on there that, yeah, we'd love to, but we need to have somebody to partner with on that, because we don't know the specifics of each one of these industries. One of the things we've learned this last year is that we've got to pull in people that do this for a living, right, in order to give us direction. So I wanted to make that announcement. So go ahead.
That's a great question, though, because for all the people in the energy sector, this isn't the only product we're going to be rolling out. We're very close to having one ready for drilling reports. We're actually doing a beta right now where a customer has asked us for access to it. I actually have 2 customers that want to leverage and use it, and we're collaborating with them. So in the oil and gas sector, we're not going to just do lease land records. We're going to be building products very specifically for all the different types of things that Grooper could assist these energy companies with. And I say energy because it's not just oil and gas, but that's mostly who we've been working with. So yes, we're going to continue evolving products in the energy sector. And yes, we are also going to continue building products in other vertical and horizontals. But as Tim mentioned, we need subject matter experts to partner with us as we build these out. We have several that we've partnered with in this particular area that have helped us create this product. We've got people in the higher ed sector that are helping us there. We've got some people in county government that are helping us. But if there's someone that would like to partner with us and help us create a solution for financial services, we're all ears. We want to evolve these. We feel like the future of our product and our company is going to be building out purpose-built solutions, purpose-built products on top of our platform, not trying to just sell it as a utility knife that can do everything. Here you go, customer, you figure it out. But here's a solution that you can just start dropping your leases into and do all these amazing things to it.
Perfect. And the chat session that's going on, yeah, Christopher, absolutely. I still got your email. I'll respond to you shortly. I appreciate the reaching out because we definitely, I don't think you've been, a lot of you, this is a different group that's on this webinar. I'm going to go back probably for the next one and back up and go back over a lot of the AI integrations we're doing, because quite honestly, it's changed so much since this year. We now have AI Separate, which is in beta. I'm going to warn you, but we do have it. We have AI classification based on AI search, which Jason was just showing. So we have these functionalities that have snuck into the product as our CTO says, "Oh, I need to do something to solve a specific problem he runs into." And this is how we get innovation. And as y'all bring this to us, saying, "Hey, if we had X, we could go after this industry," that's how the Grooper product was built. Right? We talk about this all the time internally, that we couldn't have intentionally built Grooper the way it is without y'all's help. So definitely appreciate everybody reaching out. We're only 2 minutes over, Jason, so nice job.
All right.
It's that Alabama fast talking.
That's right.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate everybody's time today. I don't think we have any other questions. As always, y'all know that our doors are always open. So if you have any questions, something comes up after this, please just reach out to us, and you all will get the recording to this shortly. This should go out. The recording should go out by end of day tomorrow. I'm going to go push on Colin to make sure that gets done. Sorry, Colin. Oh, he's on the phone. Other than that, thanks again for supporting us in these series. We'll have another one in 2 weeks, and then we'll probably adjust a little bit as we move into the summer, because we have some vacations on our end, and I know that a lot of people take vacations around the July 4th holiday. So, but that's all we got. Appreciate it. Jason, you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, just appreciate everyone's time today. And as Tim mentioned, we'd love to chat with you more. If you've got any interest, just let us know.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Have a great